Today on Ritual Conversations, I'm joined by Alex Ginsburg, a Zurich-based functional nutritional therapist focused on gut health, the microbiome, and menopause support. We're talking something which is very important for women, and we struggle with this very quietly. How perimenopause can show up not just through hormones, but through digestion, mood, inflammation, energy, and weight, and why gut health may be the key part of the picture. So, Alex, welcome. And for those discovering your work for the first time, how would you describe what you do and what drew you to focus on gut health?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. How would I describe gut health? You asked me. Gut health is really the core system in our body. It is fundamental to be healthy, to take care of our gut. It is, as I said, central because there is a link with all the other systems. So an inflammation in the gut sooner or later will translate itself in an inflammation in other system. So whatever issue we have, we're trying to solve. Is it just a I'm saying just, but it's not just. Is it a perimenopausal, which is a natural transition? Is it something more important? You always have to start in the gut. Absolutely.
And a lot of women, when we hear the word perimenopause, we immediately link this to our hormones. From your perspective, where does the gut health fit into this conversation with perimenopause and menopause, particularly?
So, from my experience, it's an excellent question, actually. From my experience, if a person has struggles with her digestive issues or digestive system, then this will translate in a more difficult perimenopause. Absolutely, all the time. So every time again, to rebalance the hormones, we have to start in the gut. There is an ensemble of bacteria that is called the strobolome, and it actually regulates estrogen. So if a gut is inflamed, again, the strobolome will be impacted directly and the recirculation of estrogen in the body too. So it is, again, central to a smooth or a better or an easier perimenopause, an easier transition with less symptoms is certainly super important to address the gut and the liver health.
So, what would, how can someone know what are their gut related symptoms, just focusing on this phase of a woman's life?
That's a tricky question because obviously, when one thinks of gut issues, one thinks, okay, I'm bloated, I'm constipated, I have loose stools, my loose stools, are very smelly. And that's true. Certainly, that indicates an issue in the gut. But it can be a migrating joint pain. One day I have a joint pain in my shoulder, the next day it's, on the elbow or the knee. That indicates also a permeability in the gut and an issue in your digestion. So it can be recurrent migraines. It can be the skin. The skin is, if you want, the picture of your gut health. So if you have skin issues, skin rashes like eczema or psoriasis, we have to start in the gut. So an autoimmune condition also starts in the gut. So the gut issue can manifest itself maybe at first with some kind of inflammation and bloatness and maybe regular stools. And then we'll shift into another system and we won't necessarily make the link with a joint pain and a gut issue, with a migraine and a gut issue. So, as I said, it's a tricky question because it can manifest itself in so many different ways.
So, I mean, you're right. Like, I never thought of joint pains and gut, like, never. So, that's something very, very new for me. But, just keeping the focus on perimenopause and menopause, how can one say, okay, my gut is the reason my hormones are now getting more imbalanced? So,
As I
what would,
said, it's a strobolome, which is really the link there mainly, meaning that this ensemble of bacteria, this group of bacteria that are regulating the recapture of estrogen in the body are bacteria that are in the gut. That is, and the more this estrogen it recirculates in the body and is not evacuated with the stool, well, the more, or the urine, the more we will have an estrogen dominance, if you want, because you have to understand that estrogen dominance, we think of a lot of estrogen. And in perimenopause, one might think, but I'm losing my estrogen. I shouldn't be dominant. Actually, estrogen dominance means the difference in level between estrogen and progesterone. So if your progesterone is at the bottom, you very easily have an estrogen dominance already, because it is enough, if you want, that the estrogen is somehow, even if low, there is a presence and a recirculation of estrogen, you already have an estrogen dominance. In the normal cycle, when both fluctuate regularly, this difference is constant, but there are cases in which, in a of phase one, where the estrogen has decreased in the first place, and the progesterone has decreased, and estrogen is still present, because that's a second hormone that goes down in perimenopause. And on top of that, we have an estrobolome that is really active in the gut. So we have recirculation of estrogen. We have a bigger amount of estrogens present, and that leads to a dominance in estrogen. And that is something that obviously will not help go through, a menopause without symptoms or without side effects, because then we have this imbalance between the two and you really feel it. Another situation is, as I was saying, an inflamed gut. An inflamed gut very often, unfortunately, leads to a permeability of the gut and to an immune response. An immune response, you feel inflamed, you feel joint pain, you feel brain fog, because you have a skin rash, because you have an immune response from the gut that is imbalanced. And that, the brain fog coming from a permeability of the gut or from a perimenopause, the frontier is very, very unclear. So it could be both. It could be me or more one, or it could be other. So that's why when one comes to me and asks for help in her perimenopause journey, the first thing is starting in the gut to already clear, if you want, the muddy waters, we say. So clear the main things that we can address, the issues that we can address, and then see, okay, at this point, your digestion is fixed, your permeability is fixed. How are you feeling in your perimenopause journey? What else do we have to fix? Because obviously, losing the hormones in perimenopause makes us less resilient. It could be that these issues in digestion were already there and they've become exacerbated because we've lost the resilience of the hormones, or because of perimenopause, the gut is more inflamed, because obviously estrogen is on receptors are on every single cell of our body. So losing the estrogen, losing the progesterone also exacerbates gut health. They're connected, but we start in the gut.
And I mean, you speaking of side effects, that was really informative. Weight gain seems to be one of the if I may say so, side effects of perimenopause, and a big cause of frustration for so many women, especially those of us who have been very careful with careful in the sense enjoying a lifestyle where we balance it with exercise, eating correctly. But in spite of all of that, there's this weight gain.
All of them,
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
practically 99.9% of women. Yeah.
Yes. So what
Because we lose resilience. Estrogen and progesterone, as I was saying, we have receptors of hormones in every single cell of our body. So all the systems, all the bodies impacted already by that. Secondly, because we're losing these hormones, we're also losing a certain resilience towards insulin, resilience towards stress. So if we keep going like we were going before, so the same habits, the same type of food, the same type of, small pleasures that we were, without paying too much attention to what we're doing, the weight gain is there. It's absolutely inevitable. We're losing hormones. There is a change. Also, the form of the body, the shape of the body is changing, because the balance of those hormones is different, and we have a tendency of having the weight gain around the waist, and to have more of an androgenic, like men-like
Mhm.
form, shape, not like a pear, but more like an apple, because it all kind of goes and sits around the waist. So it's not a question of I'm, trying to do everything and it's not working and this is so frustrating. It's a question of understanding what drives it. There is a part of it that is somehow inevitable, because we're losing those hormones. And even if you take hormone therapy or hormone replacement therapy, you're never going to get back to what you were before, because hormone replacement therapy is a very wrong word, because we are not replacing hormones. We're giving the bare minimum for a person to manage the side effects of perimenopause. So that quantity is not enough for us to function like we were before. That's the first point. And the second point, having lost these hormones, we are less resilient to, as I was saying, to stress and to insulin. So we have to be way more careful at managing our stress, at working with our sleep, and to make sure that we sleep properly and that we get the rest that we need. And also with regards to the diet, that we balance really well our protein, our macros, protein, fats, and carbs, to really be aiming at balancing as much as possible this insulin, because it's driven by that. The weight gain is driven by, on one side, losing the hormones, and on the other side, the cortisol, the stress, the lack of sleep, and the insulin, lack of insulin sensitivity, a reduction in any case. So it's not
So
a
none of the
question of.
desserts and the sweet treats as it was earlier. None of the desserts and sweet treats as we could in our 20s.
Well, you can, but again, with mindfulness, not only sweets and the things. The mistake I see very often is that I'm having a salad and then I can have a sweet, because we always have this kind of calorie attitude. So I've had like 20 calories because I've had a green salad. I can have my piece of cake. That's a terrible mistake. We cannot getting your proteins, and you need your proteins to keep your insulin stable and your fiber, and to give to the body what it needs. When you have a proper meal and the satiety that comes after having eaten a balanced meal, you can have a little bit of cake, but you will have way less. And it's not like, oh, I had a salad, then I can have a lot of cake because I'm calculating my calories. Is I am giving the foundation for my body to function, to feel the satiety, and then I'm having the little bit of a cherry on the cake thing and having my piece of cake afterwards. But you will be eating already such a smaller amount, and this amount of sugar, of fat, will be digested together with protein and with fats, and it won't spike so badly in your blood afterwards. So a little bit, but yeah, in moderate quantities,
That's
that's for
pretty
sure.
much like a very balanced, healthy lifestyle, then, what you're saying. I mean, we've always had to do that because just a salad is never enough, anyways. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Lifestyle and healthy habits and correct habits are what's going to keep you going in the long run, first of all, on a healthy point of view, from a digestive point of view, helping you manage your menopause, helping you manage your weight. And at the same time, be mindful that the weight does not only comes from the menopause, if you want, but because the menopause makes us less resilient with regards to stress, sleep, insulin, etc. And so you have to manage all of those systems. You have to work on your stress, you have to work on your sleep, you have to work on the diet to be appropriate, you have to work on all of the on your liver detox, all of these things that together will help you maintain your weight and keep it under control. The approach is different from our 20s. Yeah.
Of course, but what would you say someone who like you know, you have this career, you have a family, all of us, right? We're still doing all of that. What would be simple rituals that one can do? I know we've spoken about all the areas, but what would be simple rituals that one could, without feeling overwhelmed, that they have to completely do a lifestyle shift that they can begin?
So I think that women want it all, which is correct. I was the first one. We want the household, we want the husband or the partner, we want the kids, we want the career, we want to study, and it's absolutely great. Again, we can manage all this until we hit perimenopause, because once again, the hormone will impact all the systems and impact our stress, our resilience, our patience, our brain fog, cognition, etc. When it comes to perimenopause, we have to understand that there are priorities to be set, and that we have to really focus on priorities and start saying no a little bit, because before driven by our estrogen and progesterone. We were the mother of everyone, taking care of everyone. At this point, we need to start taking care of our own. And when we do that, it is amazing how much more energy, how much more positivity we have, because we've had the time also to take care a little bit and to listen to ourselves. So that's the advice number one. Number two, yeah, getting rid of a lot of toxicity that we have around us. So negative people, people that drain us, people that demand too much. That has to be also a little bit of a cleanup. It's important. And thirdly, what I also advise is also understand what impacts, again, the biggest pillars that I mentioned: the stress, the sleep, the diet. Understand what impacts it. If we have four teenagers, boys that need to eat a lot, we have to manage that and be able to have our dinners and our lunches around our needs, and not only the teenagers' needs. If we have a husband that has a different time going to bed than ours, because he can go to bed and fall asleep immediately because he's not going up and down with his hormones like we are, well, it's a moment to discuss this and decide, okay, you want to go to bed later, you want to go to bed earlier. I need my steady time. I need my moment of winding down, etc. So it is really putting gently our priorities first, the ones that are really, really fundamental, so that we can go through this period and keep it all together. Because if we don't, there's a burnout at the end of the time of the journey, honestly, very, very often. So we have to listen to ourselves. We have to understand that we are important and we are in peace. We have to listen to and be mindful to the things that we can change without giving up the career, without giving up on a household or on a family. Absolutely not. It's just being me more mindful and saying, okay, now I cannot do anymore what I was doing, just focusing on everyone else but me. Now I must concentrate a little bit also on myself, listen to my needs and acknowledge them, and make, my life, the people around me, function also according to that, and getting the respect and the awareness. Because if we don't speak up, if we don't tell a husband, listen, I have trouble falling asleep, I can't go to bed one day at 9, one day at midnight, I cannot be next to you because you fall asleep within the second and it drives me crazy. I hear this all the time. It's a moment to discuss with the husband and find a solution, or the partner, whoever it is, and so on, with everything and everyone. To have a support system around us to reduce the toxicity is super, super important.
Speaking of support system, so for the women listening to us today, how can they start with you? What kind of support do you offer? If you can share that with us.
With pleasure, absolutely. Sorry. So first thing is, if they wish to have a 30-minute free call to chat a little bit, tell me their issues, and I can reply and say, listen, I can support you, or maybe we are not a good fit because I don't focus on that, etc. So that's a first way to reach me and to get hold of what I can offer and understand it better. Secondly, in the journey, if they decide to go with me, offer is obviously an extensive, if you want, questionnaire, an extensive first session where we go through everything. I understand the past, I understand the present, to be able to support them, because it's not just a picture of where we are now, it's a picture of all the past and everything that has built up with regards with our gut health, with our hormones, with our family, with everything. Or today, the result of a lifetime. We're not just today, oh, I'm in perimenopause, I'm 40, okay, take this and do that. No. What was your past? Where did you live? What happened to your digestion? Did you get food poisoning? Did you take a lot of antibiotics? Were you born vaginal? So there's a whole history that needs to be established to understand the situation of the person. And then what I always recommend, and I do a lot because they give me a very good understanding of the situation, is doing some functional testing. So stool test and Dutch test for the hormones. They give me a picture of the situation. Now, there are lots of stool tests out there. Some are diagnostic, actionable. They tell something that is reliable, that is true, that we can act on. Others are more for fun. So obviously, if you want to have a result on gut issue or gut health and to be able to address it properly, it's a diagnostic stool testing. If you want to go into the hormones, The one that I use is Dutch test because it's the only and best one out there that can really give a picture of the hormones. So I always suggest, according to the person, if there need be, to do one or two or more of those diagnostic testing. And then from there, there's a protocol or, sessions to see how it goes, to refine the protocol as the person improves and feels better, because what you need day one when we start is not what you need after 2 3 months. There is always, a reevaluation. Maybe we need to switch something, maybe can stop something else. So it's a journey. Something that has been building up, like a issue in digestion, does not result in 2 days.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bit of time, and we need to understand the root cause. We need to understand what is going on to understand how to best support it. So that's, in a nutshell, what I do. Now, the journey is always a little bit different from one person to the other, but globally, it's understanding the situation, testing very often, and coming up with a personalized protocol.
Wow, that sounds really comprehensive.
It is, as much as possible, I try to do it, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing and an excellent way to do things. First to diagnose and, have that conversation and be there for that person beyond, 1 or 2 months and reevaluate. I think that's the approach.
Absolutely. If we don't take the time to understand the person in front of us, I can be completely misled. My person can walk in and say, "Oh, I have a menopause symptoms." Okay, then do this, do that. And then it comes out that there's been a huge trauma unresolved. I can come up with the best measures and protocol of the world, but if there's an unresolved trauma behind, there is no way. Or if she has a pathogen in her gut, and I don't know because I haven't tested, I will not be able to improve her digestive health in a tailored way to really address the issue. If I don't know how she detoxifies her estrogen from a Dutch test, I cannot help her feel better. I cannot help her address an estrogen dominance, a side effect, hot flashes, etc. So testing is important. Maybe not the immediate first thing to do. We can always adjust a few things because some people walk in and they only have, I don't know, salads and soups. There's it's not even the moment to test, let's address the nutrition, let's address the lifestyle. If someone in front of me sleeps 3 hours a night, I'll test her stool in 6 months, but before I have to get her to sleep.
So
So
you
the
spoke about
comprehensive
trauma.
part is important. Yeah.
You spoke about trauma. So if someone has had trauma, would you help them with that as well? Because
It depends. I very often I do some work with them, but I also refer them. If they're not already doing it, I often refer them to a specialist.
so you will focus on the nutrition.
Yes, I think that we all have a scope of action and a specificity. So I stay within my limits and what I do best. Obviously, I'm an ear. They can speak, they can open up. At least we uncover it, at least we pinpoint that could be the trigger for so many other things, helping the person acknowledge that, because if it is repressed, maybe also the association has not been done. But once that is really, if you want, exposed and made clear, if the person has not taken sufficient measures, if she feels like it, sometimes they already have a support, some kind of psychological support. If they don't, then I will certainly suggest they do, so that focus on the gut, I focus on my hormones, I focus on my things, and she gets a support on the side on something else, and then we work
So it can
together.
work in parallel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And that's holistic.
Yeah, you can't be a mental health coach, a psychologist, a gut specialist, a hormone there's a moment in which we do one thing, we do it well, and we have to acknowledge that, okay, this is someone else that's they're going to take care of you. And sometimes they also enjoy having a different person to talk about a different aspect of the same problem, if you want. Um,
No, but what I like is that it works in parallel. It's not isolation. It's not that just, someone who specializes in the mental health will resolve your gut issues without taking nutritional counseling. And nutritional counseling without that will not work in isolation either. So they both need to work hand in hand.
100%. It's
Yeah.
spot on. you said, absolutely. We have medicine, allopathic medicine sees the body in different parts. I have a skin issue, I go to the dermatologist. I have a digestive issue, I go to the gastroenterologist. I have, a control for my hormones, I go to the OBGYN. We have understood now, and we're leaning more and more towards a comprehension of the body as a whole. The mind is linked to the gut is linked to the liver impacts the hormones impacts the brain, etc., etc., etc. So you see the person as a whole. When you go to a doctor that only gives you a cream for the skin, well, guess what? When you stop putting the cream, the rash comes back because we have not addressed the stress, we have not addressed the sleep, we have not addressed the gut, we have not addressed the hormones.
And even the food, right?
Yeah.
That probably caused the rash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was such a this has been such a valuable conversation with you, Alex. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of women. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link all your website, your social, so they can get in touch with you. And also, if you have a link to the 30-minute conversation, the discovery call with you, so I can post that as well. So that's a great way for them to, figure out, for both of you to figure out if y'all are a match or not.
Absolutely, sure. You can. They also find the free link on my website at the bottom of the first page. There's a link to that leads them to Calendly, but I'm happy to give it to you so you have it for anyone who wants to jump on a call. No strings attached at all. Absolutely not. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a free call.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Alex.
My pleasure.